Hello everybody, DK Yoti here, and welcome to my review of Dororo. Now, oh boy, Dororo. Okay, I watched this show a while ago. It's been a while since I watched this show. This show is it's a show I've heard about for a while. I heard a lot of people talk very, very highly about it. I actually hadn't really had much intention of checking it out anytime soon, but then I actually found out that it was available to stream for free on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime Video. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch Dororo free on Amazon Prime. And when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's kind of giving me a little bit of motivation because I want to watch it before they take it off of there. And then I put it on a poll where I told you, where I do this sometimes. If you go to my community tab, I do polls where you guys can pick the next anime I watch, and whichever one gets the most votes. At the moment, Made in Abyss is tied with Dororo on the poll, but Dororo did have the victory for quite a few days, and I'll probably watch Made in Abyss very soon, maybe even tonight. I'm kind of in the mood to watch something creepy and fucked up. So, I've watched Dororo, but I watched it a while ago. It's been a week or so since I watched it, but I did want to review this one, mainly because a subscriber told me they wanted me to review this one, and because this show was really, really, really good, and I have a lot of things to say about it. But before I get into the review, this is absolutely an anime that you should experience for yourself. So if you're just hearing about the show for the first time from me, you saw this review, you haven't seen the show, highly recommend going and watching the show for yourself, not looking up the premise, not looking up whatever, anything like trailers or anything. This is a great anime and you should experience it for yourself. I'm also going to say that I have a few things to say about this show that are not 100% positive. It's going to be, for the most part, it's going to be a positive review. But I do have a couple things I want to get off my chest during this review, and another reason why I wanted to review the show in general. So, let's get into it. This is my review of Dororo, and this is going to be a full spoiler review. This show came out quite a while ago, so I don't feel too bad doing a spoiler review. And if you want a no spoiler review, it's a good show and you should watch it. There you go. That's your no spoiler review. But I'm getting into this. This is going to be a spoiler review of the show. And yeah, let's get into it. Now, let me start off by saying that I was absolutely stoked for this show as soon as I started it, and the first thing that popped up on the screen was MAPPA. MAPPA is quickly becoming my favorite, or one of my favorite animation studios of all time. It seems like everything that MAPPA touches just turns into a masterpiece anime, like every single time. Literally, I have not watched a single MAPPA anime that was not a 10 out of 10. An absolute S-tier anime. Like, seriously. My current favorite MAPPA anime is Zombieland Saga. If you haven't watched Zombieland Saga, you need to fucking watch that show. It is absolutely amazing. And I have loved everything they have made. Attack on Titan Final Season, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, it is all just absolutely amazing fucking anime. And they don't seem to be slowing down, because what they've got scheduled for next year, I am ready to just ride the MAPPA bandwagon until the fucking end. They are just making such amazing shit. And I can't really come up with another studio that consistently knocks it out of the park as many times as MAPPA has. So they're either my favorite or at least like one of my top 3 favorite animation studios right now. So as soon as this fucking popped up that it was a MAPPA anime, I got so excited to watch this show. And for the first 12 episodes of this show, the first part of this show, I thought it was absolutely fucking immaculate. A absolute masterpiece I thought this show was gonna be. I got to episode 12. I got past like the first 7 episodes, I think. Whenever the 2 Mio episodes happened, once I finished that episode, I thought this show was literally gonna be a masterpiece. I thought I was gonna finish this show and it was gonna become like one of my favorites of all time. It didn't, but we're going to talk about that. But first, I do want to explain the premise of Dororo for anybody watching this who just doesn't care and doesn't care about spoilers or whatever. Here's the premise for Dororo, just to give a good review of the show so people know what I'm talking about as I talk about the show. The premise of Dororo, let me first say that the premise of this show is very fucked up. Very fucked up. So if you don't know the premise and you don't want to be scarred by a really, really messed up story, maybe skip this one. Or maybe mute and skip ahead a few times. The premise of this show is this is a period piece. This show takes place a very long time ago, and I should also acknowledge that this show is a readaptation from a previous story. Like, there was an adaptation, like, this is a very old manga that this was adapted from, and there was an original adaptation like in the 1970s, and now this is a new adaptation that MAPPA did. So I did want to point that out. I have not seen the original series and I have not read the original anime, so this is my only experience with the franchise, the property, or whatever. So I did want to say that. But now getting into the premise of Dororo, and I have no idea how similar they are. I don't imagine they're very similar. I can't imagine the story of this show was too okay or too acceptable for although maybe 1960s and 70s was a different time for cinema and thing. Like, they let more things through, you know. You seen The Exorcist? All right, anyway. Getting into this, the premise of Dororo. Basically, this, once again, is a period piece, and basically you have this lord of a land, and his land is failing miserably. They are starving, they have no money, like, it is a dying land. And the way this guy fixes it, the way this lord fixes it, is him and his wife are about to have a son, a child. And this guy goes up to this altar of hell or whatever, and makes a deal with 12 demons that he will sacrifice his child in order to get prosperity for his land. That is the start of this show. And when I say sacrifice, what happens to this kid is he is born without skin, arms, legs, ears, eyes, a mouth. Does he have a mouth? He can't talk, so vocal cords, I guess. A spine, a heart. You get the point, I think. There's 12 different things. 12 demons ate him, except for one demon who was stopped by a god of mercy, which also, it was a whole thing. There's like the statue with like a head, and the head gets taken out, which is why the baby is born with a head. It's brilliant. It's masterful writing, man. Like, seriously, this show was so fucking good. But we're gonna talk about that. So that is the premise of this show. That is what you start. And this kid, after being born, once again, no skin, arms, legs, eyes, nose, ears, vocal cords, anything like that. This kid can't see, smell, hear, talk. He is like, it's like, have you ever heard the song One by Metallica? It's like that, okay? So, ooh, just talking about it is giving me the fucking creeps. They take this kid because they both, the mother and the father, decided to do this. They sacrificed this kid, and they doomed this kid to this horrible, hellish existence so they could make their land prosper. So basically, these are the worst parents in the world, is basically what I'm saying. And they put this baby in a boat, and they send it down the river, and that's it. Peace out. The mother still cares about the kid. The father has completely moved on. He literally doesn't give a shit. He only cares about his land. The father's not a very good person. He's the main villain of the show, by far. There's quite a few villains in the show, but he's the main villain. So that is where we are. And the baby is eventually there is this guy who makes prosthetics, and he kind of has a bit of a history. He has a past with some bad people, and in order to make up for it, what he does is he travels around, and when he finds dead bodies, he uses his prosthetics to rebuild their bodies and then leaves them. So he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Well, he did some bad things in the past, but he's trying to repent for his sins, and there's a whole episode about it. It's very, very good. It's actually one of the best episodes of the first, like, 3, I would say. It's really fucking good. Every single episode where they go back in time and it's like all black and white and they explain one of the characters' origin stories, literally some of the best episodes of the show. Like, that happens with one character. I'll talk about that. I want to go a little bit more in depth into that episode, but you have a whole episode like that. They build up that character, and then they build up to him finding this baby in the boat. He finds the baby, and he takes this kid in. Once again, this kid with a ton, like I said, no mouth, no skin, no legs, no arms, no vocal cords, can't talk, you know, you get the point, okay? He takes this kid in, he finds out that he's still alive, and he basically remakes his body using like doll parts. So he has like an arm that like stops here, and then he has a removable arm, and then he can remove that arm, and he actually has a blade underneath that arm. It's really fucking cool. So he takes the arm off like a sheath, and there's a blade underneath his arm, and the same on the other arm. And then his legs, he has fake prosthetic legs as well, and he has a fake prosthetic spine, and and then he makes him a little mask as well. Like, he basically builds him a fake artificial body and basically becomes his father. And he names him Hyakimaru. Hyakimaru is the main character of this show. And Hyakimaru is fucking awesome. But before anybody comments it, yes, I want the Figma. Yes, it's very high on my list. It's a very expensive Figma, but I absolutely want to add that to my collection because this character was fucking awesome, and that never changes throughout the entire show. So, Hyakimaru is our main character, and with that, I'm going to lead into the next thing, which is Hyakimaru is basically on a journey where Hyakimaru cannot see anything, of course. He doesn't have eyes. So what he does is he just travels mindlessly, and he can see like vague, like a vague like cloud in front of him whenever there's something in front of him. If it's a human and the human is like pure, it will be a white cloud. If it's a demon or a monster, which I forgot to mention, there's demons and monsters in that. That was kind of an important thing that I forgot to mention, so I apologize. There's demons and monsters in this land, in this world. And basically, Hyakimaru just mindlessly walks around, and when he sees a red cloud, that is a demon, and then he kills the demon. That is basically his life now. He is just walking around mindlessly and killing demons when he sees like the big red cloud. And then he meets Dororo, who is, despite the fact that he is the name of the show, he is not the main character. He is the secondary main character. Well, I say he, but I'll just spoil it right now. Obviously, this is a spoiler review. Dororo is a girl, which makes very close sense. I kind of called that as soon as we met her. I was like, that's a girl. That's not a dude. So Dororo is the next character we meet, and Dororo is this like thief, like scamming thief kind of guy. At first, this goes away pretty fast. And Dororo meets Hyakimaru, and this is the beginning of their relationship. And Dororo basically takes him under and helps him kind of complete his quest, because what happens is when Hyakimaru successfully kills a demon, he regains one of his body parts. So the first one he kills, he gets his skin back. So that's how it works. So he's going around, and once he's killed 12 demons, he will be fully restored. And at first, once again, it's all mindless. Hyakimaru knows absolutely nothing about his past, doesn't know anything about why he was born this way, what caused it. He is literally just mindlessly killing demons, and then finds out that when he kills a demon, he gets one part of his body back. And basically, Dororo and Hyakimaru start traveling the world, finding new demons and killing them. And in a way, the show is kind of like the best villain of the week anime you've ever seen ever, because the way it goes about it is it's very villain of the week. It definitely is, because you kind of get an episode. It's different though. It's different than a villain of the week show, because you get one episode that's like a villain of the week show, and then you'll get another episode that like jumps back in time and like explains one character's origin. It's very Mappa. It's like you watch the show and you're like, this is absolutely Mappa anime. Like, you could have never told me that this was a Mappa anime. There could have never been a thing at the beginning of the show that said Mappa, and I absolutely would have called it this is a Mappa anime, because it's just brilliantly written. The way that it goes, it's like Vince Gilligan. If you don't know who Vince Gilligan is, he's the creator of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, two of my favorite TV shows of all time, and basically everything Vince Gilligan makes is just God tier. It's like S tier. That is Mappa. Mappa is the Vince Gilligan of anime. But the villain of the week thing is done so fantastically in this show, because it's not just like, they don't just do it to progress the story. It doesn't feel like filler. At no point does the villain of the week ever feel like filler, because they frame every single part of the journey, every single thing where Hyakimaru gets one of his body parts back. It is all huge. Like, the biggest example for me, because I'm not going to go through every single individual encounter with demons. The one I'm going to go through is by far the absolute, like, quintessential episode of this show. It is my favorite episode of this show by far. And that is the Mio 2-part episode. So this is my favorite episode of the show, and this is in my opinion, the quintessential episode of the show. The second episode of it. This is a 2-part episode where Hyakimaru, after getting his hearing back, he gets his hearing back, and at first he's like, I hate the fact that I have these. He's like covering his ears constantly, never wants to hear anything. He's like, this is awful. I hate life now that he has his ears back. Obviously, he doesn't say that because he still doesn't have his mouth back, but he hates the fact that he can hear. And then he meets this girl named Mio, and Mio, whenever she's sad, sings this little song that she made up. And it's a very pretty song, and Hyakimaru really loves this song. It's like the one thing he can listen to and not hate it. He loves listening to it. So this character, Mio, we follow this character for this episode. A lot of things get revealed about it. I don't really want to go into it, but a ton of things get revealed about the character. There's a whole thing where she is kind of running a bit of an orphanage that has a bunch of other kids in it, and then you find out what she is doing to keep these kids afloat, to keep them fed and underneath, well sheltered and fed. It's not very pretty. It's not pretty at all. And basically, like, you find out that this is kind of a running thing with this show. This, like, universe, this universe that this show takes place in is absolutely fucking miserable. This is, like, the second to last anime universe that I would ever fucking want to live in. The only one I would rather live, the only one that beats this one for a universe that I would never want to live in is Attack on Titan. Because in Attack on Titan, you're literally gonna last 5 seconds. This show is so miserable, though. So I did want to point that out. Like, there's little to no happiness throughout, like, this entire show. So basically, you have that whole setup with Mio, and then the way this storyline ends in the second episode, this is easily, in my opinion, the quintessential scene of the show and my favorite scene of the entire show, is you have Mio, after returning back from work, is attacked by this gang of bad people, like samurai people. That's kind of complicated. There's like a bunch of different sides in this that are kind of at war. And these bad people accuse her of crimes that technically she didn't commit. It's kind of complicated. And slaughters everybody. They kill Mio, and they kill every single person in the orphanage. They burn it down, and Hyakimaru arrives to see everybody being slaughtered, the place being burnt down. And as Mio dies, she sings her song that she sings whenever she's sad. Hyakimaru hears her singing the song, and then hears it slowly fade away. And then Hyakimaru loses his mind and slaughters every single person there. It is one of the fucking most epic scenes of any anime I have ever seen. It was extraordinary. My jaw was on the fucking floor. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And at this point, I was absolutely in love with this show. I was actually obsessed with it. I didn't want to stop. As soon as I continued it, man, I was just on cloud nine. I was like, this show is actually fucking immaculate. This is probably going to be like one of my favorite fucking animes of all time, isn't it? So that is that 2-part episode, Mio, and that is, in my opinion, the best episode of the entire show. And then moving on from there, we kind of continue the thing about the show. We kind of have Villain of the Week episodes where we're going to different places. Like, there's this one where there's like this big black smoke cloud that comes in and kills like a ton of people, but they have to sacrifice a bride to it every time it shows up. It's a really cool episode. I really like that one. And like, there's a bunch of different ones like that. They're all very unique. They're all very different. It never feels like a shitty Villain of the Week anime. It always feels very Mappa. It always feels very Mappa. Like, you're never watching the show and you're never like, the quality slipped here, man. At no point, except for maybe the final episode, does that ever happen. But I'm going to talk about that. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about that in depth, the final episode. But that kind of continues, and then you also get other episodes where you go back and you learn about past. And one of my favorite episodes of the show easily is when we go back and we learn about Dororo's past with his father and his mother, and then you kind of figure out that he gets betrayed by one of his, his father was like this big time, he was this really powerful warrior, and he had like a huge posse of people, and he gets betrayed by one of them, and that character kind of becomes like a recurring villain throughout the show, kind of. And it was an amazing episode. One of the best episodes of the show. It was absolutely phenomenal, where you have like all I'm gonna say is that scene where he's like, I'm gonna show you how to use a spear. That was like the most epic fucking thing I had seen, man. That was so badass. But it's an absolutely fantastic episode, and once again, very Mappa, just really, really good. And you do get episodes like that every now and then where you go back and you kind of put pieces together, just like a Vince Gilligan show, kind of. It's really, really fucking amazing. And for the first 12 episodes, I thought that I just completely thought that. I thought the show was literally flawless for these first 12 episodes. Then we enter part 2. Alrighty, before we get into part 2, I want to establish something. I want to talk about something. The opening of the show, the very first opening of the show, I don't know the name of the song, I apologize for that, I still haven't figured it out. The first opening to the show, the Give Me Fire, light it up, baby. That opening is like the actual, that opening is the literal definition of sex, dude. That opening is so fucking amazing. I love that opening so much. The first time I heard that opening, I was actually obsessed with it. I'm like, this is gonna be an opening I am never gonna forget. This is gonna be on my playlist for the fucking rest of my goddamn life, dude. This opening is so effing amazing. I was so in love with this show for the first 12 episodes. Literally, I loved it so much. I loved this fucking opening, especially that part of the opening. We have Dororo standing on the hill, and you have the horses running over with like the flame. That was, oh my god, this opening is god tier. This opening is absolutely fucking amazing. The first one. Then we get to the second opening. I have kind of coined this phrase when I watch anime. It's called second OP-itis. Basically, this is a thing that I have created, that I started calling it, when an anime will have a really amazing opening, and then it will get to the second part where it changes its opening, and the second opening is a massive downgrade from the first opening. A couple examples I can give of this are Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan Season 1, Attack on Titan Season 3. Yeah, those are some pretty good examples. Vinland Saga is another one I can give. That is what I call second OP-itis, when the second opening is just far worse. Mushoku Tensei is another one. And by far, the most egregious case of second OP-itis I have ever seen is Dororo. I hate the second opening of this show. Oh my god, I hate this fucking opening so much. The second opening of this show is such a massive fucking downgrade from the first opening, and I absolutely hated it. I listened to it every time, and I hated it every single time. It's literally like the first time I heard that opening, I was like getting all excited because the opening started, and it was kind of cool at first. It was like this nice guitar solo, and I was like, oh yes, a new opening. Is it going to be even as good as, is it going to be as good or even better than the first one? Come on, Mappa, blow me away again. And then like a minute, 50 seconds later, I'm like, what is this fucking My Hero Academia opening doing in my Mappa anime? I hate it. I'm sorry if you like the second opening to Dororo, but I absolutely hate it. Like, the next time I watch this show, I think I'm gonna have my phone on standby and just have the first opening up, and every single time this opening comes up, I'm gonna skip it and then watch the first opening again on my phone. Like, actually horrible. Maybe my least favorite anime opening of all time, just because of how much of a freaking downgrade it is from the first one. So I don't know if that's a hot take. I hope it's not. It shouldn't be, because it absolutely is the right opinion. I don't care what any of you say. That second opening is absolute shit compared to the first. But now we enter the second part, and if you thought that I was gonna like start shitting on the second part, you're wrong. I think the second part is fantastic all the way up until the final episode. It is still really fucking amazing. Like, the quality of the show does not change when you reach the second part of the show. It's still Mappa, it's still phenomenal until you get to the final part. Now, I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to talk about in this middle part. It's all very, very, very good. I don't feel like I really need to get into any individual part. None of it lived up to the amazingness that was the Mio episode, the 2-part Mio episode, but it's all very good. It continues the thing of the show. You have some episodes that are kind of villain of the week, and then you have some episodes that kind of go into more of a, that kind of go more into the backstory. Like, there was one where you actually see what happened with Dororo and his mother after the father is killed, and it was amazing. Oh my god, the scene when he poured the boiling hot soup in her hand so she could feed Dororo, actually, like, I was like actually about to cry when that scene happened. That was horrible. So yeah, it just the quality continues. It's still fantastic. The only thing that drops in quality is the opening. The opening is so awful compared to the first one, in my opinion anyway. I'm sorry if that's a hot take. I really am. I don't mean to be a dick if you love the second opening, but I hate it. So anyway, so yes, the quality continues. I really love the string of episodes where they get to that, where you have, what's his name? Itachi, the guy who betrayed Dororo's father. He kind of becomes a recurring villain, and I really love the whole string of episodes where him and Dororo go to find his treasure that he hid, and he like hid it with the map on the back of Dororo. And I love that because you have like this whole thing where they get to this island and they meet this crazy dude with like these 2 pet sharks. It's really badass. He's like missing an entire arm. The character sucks. The character missing an arm absolutely sucks. He's like the most loathsome character of the entire show. But this whole string of episodes was so awesome. The way they get, because basically what happens is this dude lures them into a false sense of security where he's gonna bring them over to the island, and then he stops right in the middle of the water and tells them that he's actually just gonna feed them to his sharks, just like he fed his entire village to his sharks. And it's so cool because the shark like absolutely annihilates one of the boats, and you're like, oh god, this just got really fucking bad. And then the way they get out of that situation, it's fantastic. I loved that episode. That was another one that's like in my top 5. I loved that episode. And then that whole thing right there, that one character though, the guy missing his arm, that was like the shark guy, that dude was such an asshole, dude. And at no point did he ever stop being just a complete and utter tool bag. Oh man, every single time they've come back to him, I'm like, oh, with this asshole again. So that's the only thing I really wanted to talk about in this little like middle bit of the show. Let's go ahead and jump into the finale of Dororo, because Dororo does end after episode 24. It is a very self-contained story. It ends after episode 24. That is the finale of the show. We enter the end game of the show, and the way they set up the end game is you have Hyakimaru, who is officially they at the end of the first part of the show, after like I think at episode like 12 or something, he figures out everything about his past. He figures out what his parents did because his brother kind of comes in, and there's a whole thing right there. I don't really want to get all the way into it. It's a lot of things. His brother Taomaru, I gotta say, at least I really like Taomaru as a character. I actually really like that character, and yeah, that's the only thing I want to do establish there. But he has found out why he hates what he has figured out why he was born the way he is, and he is pissed. He wants his body back. And at this point in the show, you are literally following Hyakimaru on this fucking like murderous rampage, killing anybody in his way, trying to get his body back. And they kind of establish that he has kind of lost it, that he is actually kind of becoming a demon because he is just all he wants to do is get his body back. He doesn't care about anybody. He has stopped being an actually good person like he was before. Well, that's debatable, but that's how you start this. And you have there's a whole lot of stuff. He gets betrayed at one point. Well, not really betrayed. He just kind of gets fucked over by one of it's complicated. But it's really fucking good. And then you enter the final bit. Now, I feel like I should get into really the specifics of the final bit. Like you have, I never even talked about Taomaru's like bodyguards. What's his name? Hyogo and Mutsu, I think were their names. His two bodyguards. They were really great characters. But there's a whole thing with them where one of them has like this disease, and they all kind of give themselves to the demons in order to get like his body parts back. So the final body parts that Hyakimaru has to recover are now being held by those two characters and Taomaru. He has like his eyes, and it's really cool the way they go about it, because in a previous episode, Hyakimaru like cut his forehead open, and he has like this like closed like this like scratch on his forehead, and then he gets to like the final episode, and that opens up and it's his eye. So he has two eyes because he also took out one of his other eyes. It's really brilliant. It's very Mappa. Like you're watching this and you're like, this is a fucking Mappa anime. And literally all the way up until episode 24, the show was absolutely phenomenal. But then we get in episode 24. I'm sorry if this is a hot take, but I did not think this show wrapped up well. I did not think the ending and the finale of this show was worthy of the show. I did not think it lived up to what the original had. And it's probably the main reason why I have to say this show, like, I loved it. I absolutely love the show. Like, really need to make that very clear. I absolutely love the show. I give the show an S tier. Every single weeb on the planet needs to watch this show. But that ending I was not a fan, and it's easily my biggest problem with the show, even over the opening. I think the ending, if they had nailed the ending, I could have completely excused the second opening entirely. But the ending of this show just felt so not Mappa at all. It's like, I don't know what the hell happened in the ending of the show, but you go, episode 23 ends with the final fight between Taomaru and Hyakimaru starting. The two brothers are fighting. They're in this building. The building is burning down. It's absolutely fucking epic. It's amazing. You're literally like loving it so much. Like you end episode 23, you go straight into episode 24, and you're like, oh my god, this is gonna be such a god tier fucking series when I finish it. This finale is gonna be absolutely perfect. I cannot wait to see it. You go into it, and after this fight concludes, you literally have Taomaru and Hyakimaru fighting for like 7 minutes straight. And Hyakimaru has been established that he is like almost completely not even human anymore. Like his bloodthirst for getting his body back is taking him over. Like he does not care about literally anything but getting his body back. And like 7 minutes straight of fighting his brother. And then out of freaking nowhere, he's just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. You're human. I can't do it. With there's like no prefacing or anything. 7 minutes straight of fighting, and then he does that. And I'm like, wait, what? What the hell's going on? And then you have what happens next is Taomaru gets fully taken over by the demon that has like his two eyes. And then oh my god, this is so hard to explain. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't understand what happened in this event. So after Taomaru is completely taken over by this demon, for whatever reason, the floor underneath Hyakimaru has like the heart of the demon in it, and he just stabs the heart, and then his eyes go back to him, and he gets all of his back. So he is now complete again. He has his eyes, he has his arms, and I'm just sitting here like, wait, what? Why was the heart in the floor? Can somebody explain to me what the hell was going on there? Did I miss something? It felt like there was a scene missing, but I rewound it and there was nothing. It just cuts from that to that. It was So weird. And then the way they wrap up the show, you have his mother, the prosthetic guy, and Taomaru are stuck in the burning building. The burning building goes down, they all die, and nobody acknowledges it at all. Literally nobody gives a shit about any of these three major characters that just died from being trapped in a burning building. The mother, Taomaru, one of the best characters of the show, easily, and the prosthetics guy all die, and like there's nothing. There's not even like any sad music going on in the background or anything. It's just silent and nobody cares. The father's like, happens. That son I raised and I wanted him to be my the next ruler, and I wanted him to usurp me and whatever. He's dead. Oh well. That happens. Really? Mappa? Were you guys at the office when they made this episode? It felt so rushed. It felt so poorly thought out. And then you get to the final bit where you don't even get a conclusion with Daigo, the Lord. I never mentioned that was his name. The Lord, the god, the main villain of the show, the dude who sacrificed Yakimaru to the demons. You never even get a satisfying confrontation with that. You think after he leaves the building, Daigo is going to show up and you're going to have this epic fight between Yakimaru and Daigo. But no, Yakimaru just finds Daigo praying in the Hall of Hell and then just leaves him there and is like, yeah, you fucked up and now your land's going to fail because I'm complete again, bitch. And then he cries and that's how that ends. And I'm like, really? This dude who established that he never gave a shit about you whatsoever is just going to be like, oh, I fucked up. I shouldn't have sacrificed my son. That's how we're going to end that dude's story. That horrible person's story. That's how we're ending it. His existence led to the horrible things that are happening to his son, the death of his wife and his son and one other person. And that's how we're going to end it. Okay. And then the final bit is you have Dororo and Hyakimaru split for some reason. Then we cut like 23 years into the future, and the final shot of the show is Dororo running as a grown-up, running on this bridge into Hyakimaru, who is also grown up, and then we cut to black, and that's the end of the show. What? What? Is it implying that they got together and lived happily ever after? What? What was this ending? I'm sorry if this is a hot take, but I just did not like this ending whatsoever. When I finished the show, it was literally like, did they fire some writers or something when we went to 23 to 24? What the hell happened, man? I don't know. I felt like the ending absolutely just completely fumbled it. It failed on everything. It didn't give a satisfying conclusion to literally anything. It was an ending, but you know what else was an ending? The ending of the Promised Neverland Season 2 was an ending. That doesn't make it a good ending. And the ending of Dororo for me was just pathetic. I'm just going to say it. I don't like the ending of this show whatsoever. I really wish that they had gone about it differently. You thought it was going to be epic. You thought it was going to come out of that. It was going to be an actually sad moment when the building burned down and 3 of the major characters were killed in that one instance. And then he was going to come out, he was going to get confronted by Daigo, and the show was going to end with this massive climactic battle between him and Daigo. That's what I thought, at least. And then that happens, and I'm just like, what? Why did they split? They go 20, what was it, a year and a half together where they literally are inseparable and they refuse to leave each other. And even when they have been apart, they come back to each other. And then they just decide to leave each other out of nowhere for 20 years or however long it was. What? And then they got together again after 20 years and presumably, I don't know, got married or something? What on earth? What was this ending? I don't know. Am I missing something? Any huge people out there who are like, oh, dude, you just completely missed the point. Feel free. Leave it in the comments. Did I miss something? Because I cannot put this ending together. I cannot put together how this was a satisfying conclusion to the show in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that this concludes is that Hyakimaru got his whole body back, which means the land failed and the land died. Daigo just was like, oh, I fucked up, and that was his end. And he lost everything, I guess. So I guess he lost everything. I guess that is a decent way to be like, yeah, you fucked up, and that's your eternal punishment. Okay, whatever. I think it just could have been so much more epic and so much better. And then Dororo and Hyakimaru just, that's it. Okay, let me get into my final thoughts on the show. Overall, I think Dororo is a fantastic show. Even with my problems with the ending, which there are lots, even with my problems with the ending, I can still say that this is worth that every single weeb on the planet should watch this show, and it's an S tier anime. It's an amazing fucking anime. But if this show had stuck the landing, this could have been my second favorite Mappa anime after Zombieland Saga, easily. Like, this was so amazing. Just the concept of this show, the way it starts, the whole thing with Shakimaru is such an amazing character, the fucking blades in his arms, he's so awesome. Everything that happened with that in the 2 Mio episodes, the build-up to him getting all of his body back, and the whole thing where you have them going back in time, explaining everything, it was just all so perfectly Mappa, dude. It was absolutely immaculate. And in my opinion, the ending just fumbled. It just didn't know how to wrap it up in a satisfying way. And the final episode of the show is far and beyond my least favorite episode of the entire show. So there you have it. That is my final thoughts on the show. The show is an S tier. Every single weeb should watch this show. But the ending disappointed me. That's it. That's my final thoughts. So thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully any Dororo fans don't absolutely hate my guts now. This was just my opinion. Please keep that in mind. I still love this show. Really do. But this show absolutely had an opportunity to become like in my top 10 or 20 of all time. And it just did not do it at the end there. So there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe give me a like and subscribe for more anime content in the future. And this is DK Guillotine. I'm signing out. And leave me your thoughts on Dororo in the comments, because I would definitely love to have some I would love to have some conversations with you about that ending.